we'll know little about what is prose, what is poetry and some literary genres. Verb in relation to tense, person and number of subject. That totally is called the subject-verb agreement or the subject-verb concord. Rather than lines on verses. Where do we see the verses? That we see in poetry. So it tends to be the most beautiful form of literature. Definitely poetry is the beautiful form of literature. Hello everyone. Myself Shobita S. Aradhya, lecturer, Department of English, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, MYSURU, the Temple of Excellence. A warm welcome to you all for the first session where I will be introducing you to the syllabus of first SEM B.C.A. So let us start the session. This is an introduction session. You will be introduced to the syllabus. What all we'll see in this model? We'll see the syllabus which is prescribed for first semester of B.C.A. Then pattern of evaluation which will be held at the end of the semester. Then pattern of question paper which you will be answering in the examination. Then we'll know little about what is prose, what is poetry and some literary genres. Okay. First, let us discuss about the syllabus. So, you have 8 poems and 4 prose. And those poetry, the poems which you have are When in Disgrace, which is written by William Shakespeare, Fidelity by William Wordsworth, Refugee Blues by W.H. Auden, and The Cold Within by James Patrick Kinney, and Freedom by Rabindranath Tagore, The Man He Killed by Thomas Hardy, and The Quiet Life by Alexander Pope. And the last poem is The Pulley by George Herbert. So, these are the poems which you will be having for your first semester examination. So, there are 8 poems prescribed for your syllabus for this semester. Then we'll see the prose. Which are the prose which you are going to study? They are What is Science by George Orwell, With the Photographer by Stephen Leacock, Fool's Paradise by Isaac Bashevis Singer, and Prospects of Democracy in India by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Okay. So, these are the prose, 4 prose which you will be studying for this semester. Next, we'll go and see which are the language components which you need to learn this semester. Those are, you need to know about punctuation. So, what all we'll know in punctuation? Full stop, comma, exclamatory sign, question mark, colon, semicolon, and also capitals. Where to use capitals? Okay, all these you will be learning under punctuation. Then articles. There are 3 articles, a, an, and the, and they are divided into indefinite articles and definite articles. That you will be learning under articles. Then prepositions. Prepositions are very important. Many times we miss the prepositions and usually we get confused with of and by, from and by, correct? So, that we will be learning here under the heading prepositions. And verb in relation to tense, that is the subject-verb agreement or subject-verb concord. So, verb in relation to tense, person and number of subject. That totally is called the subject-verb agreement or the subject-verb concord. That you will be learning here. So, here you learn if the verb is plural, how will you use it? If it is singular, what you have to use. So, that you will be learning. The rules and the conditions for subject-verb concord will be learned under this heading. These are the literary activities you will be doing here, or the language components you will be learning in the first semester. This is about your syllabus. Now we will see the formative assessment, how the assessment is done. So here for assessment you will be having two internals, first and second internal test, and also you will be having class test, that is assignment. You will be having two assignments. Here see this, each of these you will be having for 10 marks. Each test, each internal test and each assignment will be for 10 marks. You will be having 4 assessments, that is 2 are the internal test and 2 are the class test. Totally 4, each will carry 10 marks. So totally 40 marks are your internal marks for first semester. Then let us see the question paper pattern. So 40 marks is for your internal assessment and remaining 60 you will be writing the examination. So how the question paper pattern is, how you will be seeing the question paper, that is here you will have objective type questions, that is for 8 marks. Each question carries 1 mark. So objective type questions you will have it for 8 marks. Then reference to context, here reference to context, out of 6 poetry, any 3 you have to answer. Okay, out of 6, any 3 questions you have to answer. Each question carries 4 marks. So totally the reference to context main will be for 12 marks. Okay, 3 questions you have to answer. There will be 6 questions, you have to answer any 3, and all those will be from the poetry part. Okay, so it will be from the part of poetry, and it is for 12 marks. Essay type questions on prose. So in your question paper, questions for prose and poetry will be different. It will be under different mains. Okay, so prose, essay type questions on prose, you have to answer any 2 out of 4. So you have the options there. You have to answer any 2 out of 4. Each question carries 5 marks. So 2 into 5, 10 marks. Okay. And then essay type questions on poetry. Again, you have to answer any 2 out of 4 questions. And it carries 10 marks. 2 questions, each carries 5 marks. So 10 marks. Okay. So don't get confused here. You'll be having separate mains for prose and poetry, and reference to context is separate. Okay. So here you'll be having option for each question. You must see the question, read the question properly and then start answering. Otherwise, you may waste timing answering which is not necessary, which is not supposed to be written. If you write 3 poetry reference to context, it's enough. No need to write more. If you have time, you can attempt extra. But first, you see that you write all the necessary questions are answered. See that, and then if you have time, go for extra. It is not necessary. If you wish, you can write. So here we have 8 plus 12, 20, 20 plus 10, 30, 30 plus 10, 40. Totally, prose and poetry is for 40 marks. 40 marks for prose and poetry. Then we'll come for language component or grammar and composition. Here punctuation, each one of these will be asked for 5 marks. Okay, so you'll have 5 questions, 1 into 5. It can be in the format of fill in the blanks, or it can be to choose from the bracket. Okay, so you have to choose the correct. For each one it is 5 marks. Punctuation 5 marks, article 5 marks, preposition 5 marks, and subject verb agreement for 5 marks. So again, for each one blank or each one answer, you'll have 1 mark. Okay, totally language component is for 20 marks. Hope this is clear. So 40 plus 20, it is 60. And your internal assessment, let me go back to the previous module. See here, you have it for internal assessment for 40 marks. In the next slide, see prose, poetry and language component for 60 marks. Totally your exam is for 100 marks, but your written exam will be for 60 marks and your internal assessment will be for 40 marks. This is how the question paper pattern and the internal assessment will be conducted. Next, let me tell you about what is prose and poetry. What is the difference between prose and poetry? Are they both same? No. You have learned all these years, prose is different from poetry. How these both are different, that we'll see now. Prose refers to simply to any written piece of work that is built on sentences. So, in prose, it is just sentences, continuous sentences which are formed into paragraphs. Sentences are added and paragraphs are made rather than lines on verses. Where do we see the verses? That we see in poetry. Correct? So, in poetry, there is a rule that we should have these many words or these many lines. Correct? But we don't have all those for prose. Example for prose include novels, short stories, essays, letters, editorials, articles and journals. These are some of the examples or the kinds of prose we see. Let me recap. Novels, short stories, essays, letters, editorials, articles and journals are some of the kinds or examples of prose. Okay. So, follows natural patterns of speech and communication. How prose is written? It is written in our natural way of communication. What we communicate with our friends or when we are narrating a story to someone, what language, what kind of composition, speech is seen there. The same will be seen in the prose part also. Has a grammatical structure with sentences and paragraphs. So, what we'll have? We'll have grammatical structures with sentences and paragraphs. As we go on adding sentences, there must be grammatical structure. We cannot write anything in any language without grammar. So, that we can see in prose. We see it in the poetry too. Uses everyday language. What language is used in prose? It is the everyday language, what we use to converse with people. The same language is used. Same words are used. Then sentences and thoughts continue across lines. What happens here? Sentences and thoughts, whatever comes, it goes on with the lines. Sentences are added, lines are added in the prose. There is no limitation, there is no condition for lines and sentences in prose. Let us see what is poetry now. Poetry is a way of expressing impressions, emotions and events that are highly compressed. So, what we do here, our emotions, our impressions are expressed here, but in which way? Which are compressed. Okay, here lines are not continuously added. They are not just made in paragraphs and written. Here they are compressed and in which every word counts. In poetry, each and every word counts. So only here it is compressed. Here we do not use the everyday language because it has to be compressed. This is the difference between prose and poetry. Then, so it tends to be the most beautiful form of literature. Definitely poetry is the beautiful form of literature because we express so many emotions, so many impressions in just a few lines or in just a few words. So it is called the beautiful form of literature. Everything has been chosen with utmost care. Here each and every word, each and every line is chosen with utmost care. With great care we choose them because in poetry we will be expressing so many emotions, so many thoughts in few lines and words. So we carefully choose the words and make lines for poetry. Here we call the lines as verses in poetry. Okay, this is the main difference between prose and poetry. Next, we'll see which are the different types or literary genres in English language. There are 4 main literary genres. Main 4 I am taking here. Those are poetry, we just discussed now, and this year we are having 8 poems. So remember, poetry is stressed for this semester. We will be having 8 poems. Then fiction. Fiction means which is our imagination, which is not true, which is not based on any incident or any person. So if you see the movies in the beginning, all the movies, all the serials, sequences, they show that this is a fiction. This is not based on any incident or any person's life. Okay, so that is shown, that is fiction, means it is imagination of the writer. Whatever writer has imagined, that is written. That is not the true story of somebody. That is known as fiction. Then non-fiction means this is based on some person's life or some incident which has occurred already. Okay, non-fiction is just is contrary to fiction. Okay, then drama. Drama is full of dialogues. Okay, it is conversation between people. So in drama we'll see the dialogues. So these are the 4 different types or 4 genres of literature which we usually see. And also for studying in colleges and schools, usually they see that the text has all these 4 genres. There should be poetry, there should be a fiction, a non-fiction and a drama in the text. That is always checked while textbook is framed. So these are the literary genres. Then while studying the chapters, while studying the poetry or the prose, what we will be learning this semester is, see, in every chapter we'll go through the author or the poet. What is the difference between author and a poet? Author means the one who has written the prose. Poet is one who has written the poem. We'll discuss about the author and poet first, and then the title. Why the title is so? Why this title is given to this poem or the prose? That we'll discuss. There must be something if the poet or author has given that name, correct? So we'll discuss on the title. Then the plot, where it took place or where it is imagined, that plot we'll discuss. Then the significance, importance, the significance of the poem which you are studying or the prose which you are studying. Why is it important for you people to read that and study that? That significance we'll discuss. Then if it is a drama, we'll see the characters. Characters comes in drama usually. We see in some of the fiction and non-fiction also there will be some characters. Then we'll discuss the summary of the chapter. It may be the prose or the poetry, but we'll discuss the summary of that. Then we'll discuss some of the question answers which are important, which can be asked for your examination. Such question answers will be discussed and we'll conclude the session. Okay, this is how every chapter goes. In every chapter we'll be discussing all these. Remember, characters only for those chapters which has character. Okay, so this is what we'll do in each lesson. This is all about the introduction to your syllabus. Hope you learnt which are the lessons or the prose and poetry you have for this year, and also the question paper pattern, the type of evaluation, the difference in internal assessment and the main examination. So we learned that internal assessment will be for 40 marks and written exam for 60 marks. And also we saw what is the difference between prose and poetry and also the different genres of literature. In the next session, we'll start with the lesson or the poem and we'll discuss more on that. Till then, take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.